After a turbulent winter of bitter political activity and concern about how many teams would actually be taking part, the Formula One world has reformed for the first Grand Prix of 1990 here on the tough and demanding 2.4-mile circuit at Phoenix, Arizona. And it does so amidst major changes in the top teams which could well affect their chances of success. After 5 wonderful years and 3 world championships with McLaren, a fiercely motivated Alain Prost moves to Ferrari to carry the prestigious #1. It's Nigel Mansell's second season with Ferrari, and he's always said that 1990 was his target year for the World Championship. So, will #2 finish as #1? Ferrari have certainly got the drivers, and their V12 semi-automatic gearbox car has been a revelation in the winter testing. McLaren's top man is #27, Ayrton Senna. After a winter of political conflict, he's grimly determined to regain the championship he lost last year. For 2 years, Gerhard Berger's been #28 for Ferrari, but this year he's #28 for McLaren. Gerhard and Ayrton have got a hard job, for although the McLaren Honda team has dominated Grand Prix racing since 1987, the competition's much tougher this year. It's an all-new lineup at Lotus, with the ebullient Derek Warwick leading the team into his 10th season. Derek's yet to win a Grand Prix, but 11 could be his lucky number this year. And 1990 is going to be the hard-charging Martin Donnelly's chance to shine in the second Lotus after major successes in Formula 3 and Formula 3000. New drivers, new car and new engine. For this year, Lotus are using V12 Lamborghini power. Last year, #5, the quiet, smooth-driving Belgian Thierry Boutsen, won 2 Grand Prix for Williams, and his teammate is again Grand Prix's most experienced driver, Riccardo Patrese. With a new Renault V10 engine, the Williams team target is the Constructors' Championship. Alessandro Nannini won his first Grand Prix in Japan last year, but this year, 3 times world champion Nelson Piquet is Benetton's new team leader. Will the updated Benetton with its exclusive Ford V8 engine be good enough? We'll soon know. Sadly, Johnny Herbert isn't in a Grand Prix team this year, though he'll be testing for Lotus. And Martin Brundle has left the Brabham team to race sports cars for Jaguar, a real loss to Formula 1. Another driver without a Grand Prix seat is Jonathan Palmer, but he's going to be telling us about the problems drivers face at this year's circuits.
The way these cars stop may look undramatic, but for the driver it's the most violent part of racing, accidents aside. When he stamps on the brake pedal, he'll experience 4 times as much force, 3.5 G, as the best family cars performing an emergency stop. To put that in perspective, 180 miles per hour to 0 takes just 4 neck-straining seconds, the time needed by a family car to stop from a mere 60. Is it any wonder, therefore, that without this full harness seatbelt, he'd be instantly thrown forward out of his seat? There are 2 reasons for this phenomenal stopping ability. Firstly, the cars have a vast amount of shear grip. These enormous slick tyres biting the road even better because they're being pressed hard into the ground by around 2 tons of aerodynamic downforce. And of course, secondly, immensely powerful brakes have to be used to take full advantage of all this grip. The pedal itself is tailored to suit the driver's foot, while a cockpit adjustable brake balance control helps him prevent the front or rear wheel skidding. The brake discs and pads are made of carbon fibre, being lighter and biting better than conventional steel. Operating at 400 degrees C, they glow red hot, and these big air scoops are vital for cooling. What makes life hard for brakes is frequent heavy use in hot temperatures, and at Phoenix we have exactly that. Problems can result from overheating or simply worn-out brakes, although with no power assistance, even if the car doesn't wilt, the driver's foot very well might.
And there are 72 hard-braking laps at Phoenix. Gerhard Berger in pole position in his first race for McLaren. And little Pierluigi Martini in the Minardi, second on the grid. Behind him in 3rd position, Andrea De Cesaris in the Dallara. And here is Jean Alesi in the Tyrrell, team leader this year, 4th on the grid. Ayrton Senna is lower than he has been for a very, very long time, because he is only 5th on the grid in the 3rd row. The Ferraris are well down. Alain Prost in 7th position. Then Thierry Boutsen, Nakajima well up in 6th position. But Nigel Mansell in the 2nd Ferrari, after a really grisly practice, is in the 9th row, 17th on the grid. 26 starters. Philippe Alliot, who qualified, was excluded, so he will not be starting last on the grid, but Ivan Capelli will. The 2 marches have made it. So watch the lights and watch Berger and look for Senna. Berger gets away well. Up behind him is Alesi on the right. There is Martini. Senna is up on the right too. And now into the first corner. First goes Berger. No, it's Alesi. Alesi's gone through into the lead. A fantastic bit of driving.
Yes, tremendous stuff by Alesi. Good, brave stuff. You see, he was right on the limit of the braking. The car got a little bit of a twitch, but he was all right. He got it gone. Now we see debris in the background flying around, and there's been an incident. There's certainly been contact.
It was one of the Williams. I think it was Riccardo Patrese. I recognise the coving. The front of the bodywork came off and flew through the air. But now it's Alesi, and look at the way he's streaking away from Gerhard Berger in 2nd position. So it is the Frenchman leading, the Austrian in 2nd position. Then it's Andrea De Cesaris in 3rd. Senna is up into 4th place. There's Pierluigi Martini in 5th position. Nelson Piquet in the Benetton in 6th place. Now you can see this Phoenix circuit, how demanding it is. There are 14 corners, and here's a replay. Now, let's look for... Yeah, there it is. That's Patrese. You see the coving come up, just misses his head.
Yes, and that really looked like Patrese's own fault, because he seemed to steer into the car in front, and of course it's his responsibility to keep clear. The car didn't carve him up. There he is in the pits. It'll take him a while to fit a new nose.
And meantime, there is Bernd Schneider driving for the Arrows team. He was with Zach Speed last year, and this is an absolutely sensational race already. If nothing happened from now on, it would have been incredible. There's Berger in 2nd place, and still Andrea De Cesaris is 3rd.
Yes, and at the moment, Alesi is pulling away, and this really is a tremendous surprise. Not a surprise that he's got the ability to do it. We saw that last year. And of course, now looking from Boutsen's car, running in about 5th place. The opening laps, of course, everything getting sorted out. But, of course, Alesi in the ordinary Cosworth-engined Tyrrell, at a circuit such as this, on the all-street circuit, the power advantage of the multi-cylinder V10s and 12s, and that is Larini, had a little spin, but appears to be undamaged and getting away back into the race again. And certainly the advantage of the nimble, very light Tyrrell around this sort of circuit, and Alesi's brilliant driving seems to be good. And of course the Pirelli tires. Tyrrell are on Pirelli tires for the first time this season, as we look from the Williams.
In 7th position, Thierry Boutsen. And Martini is there. Now the race order is in the lead. Alesi. Following him is Gerhard Berger. Then behind Gerhard Berger, you can see them all streaming through now. Ayrton Senna.
And Senna has moved up ahead of De Cesaris, and just in the background then, as they were coming out of the corner, and that's Larini. Well, he already had one spin, and he seems to have put it into the barrier there, and he looks pretty unhappy with himself about that. Not in a very safe place. But I saw a puff of smoke from Prost's Ferrari earlier on, just as he was there. There is Prost in the Ferrari. Now, you watch. I saw it just out of the car, and there it is, and it's got a bit worse. So, Prost in trouble with a smoking Ferrari. But remember, we saw Berger's car smoke when he was driving the Ferrari throughout a Grand Prix, the whole Grand Prix last year, and still finish the race. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's terminal, but that is a bit more than just a puff like an overfilled tank or the breather, because if they're a bit worried about oil, they overfill the tank, and in the early laps it puffs, but that looks a bit of a bigger puff for me.
So race order now is Jean Alesi still out in front and increasing his lead. He's some 4 seconds ahead now. In 2nd position it is Gerhard Berger, 3rd is Senna. There is the 4th place man, Andrea De Cesaris, being chased by Riccardo Patrese, who's come back into the race, of course, having been into the pit, so he is in fact a good way behind Andrea De Cesaris. But the young Italian, Andrea De Cesaris, there he is, and there's Patrese ahead of him. And now Nelson Piquet having a go at Andrea de Cesaris, who moves across, and behind Nelson Piquet, number 20, it's Thierry Boutsen. But, as James said, we're getting an indication now that what we look for here at Phoenix is a good power-to-weight ratio. And the Harvey Postlethwaite designed Tyrrell has got that. That is Berger. That is Gerhard Berger into the tyres, and is he out of the race? Can he get going again? He's trying to reverse out and get away, but it looks to me as though he's stuck.
Yes, well, we didn't see it happen. You can see the marks on the road quite plainly. He's just gone wide at the corner and slithered off. Let's hope we get an action replay. And yes, and here we have. We've got one, and yes, Berger lost the back end of the car. Just flicked out on the apex, couldn't hold it, and banged the rear wing and right rear wheel into the tyres. So I should think he's pretty much too much damaged.
And now here is the race for third position, and you can see there it is. Andrea de Cesaris right up behind him. In fourth place in the Benetton is Nelson Piquet. In fifth position is Thierry Boutsen. Don't take too much notice of Riccardo Patrese ahead of them. I remind you, he's been into the pits. We're riding now with Thierry Boutsen then in fifth position, chasing the Benetton of Nelson Piquet, who is now in this race giving the lie to the people who said he had lost motivation last year. He used to complain a lot about the Lotus. Well, he's in the 1989 Benetton. The new car won't be appearing until Imola with the improved Ford V8 engine, and it would seem that V8 torque is just the job for Phoenix. Piquet locks up the tyres. And now we are on lap 11, and there is the race leader. And look at the gap, it is 8 seconds now between Alesi, who is fairly streaking away from Ayrton Senna, who's already won this American Grand Prix 3 times, not here at Phoenix, of course, because some of his victories were at Detroit. There is Senna. Then there's a long gap with Andrea de Cesaris in third position, Nelson Piquet in fourth place, Thierry Boutsen in fifth place, and up into sixth position has come Prost, and into the pits has come Gerhard Berger, and you can see the problem, a damaged rear wing, and that is Alain Prost. Now you can see there, third, fourth, fifth and sixth absolutely together, and there's that puff of smoke that James was talking about, but Phoenix is a great leveller. 4 cars absolutely together, and very different cars.
Yes, and I'm just looking at that smoke, and it looks, if anything, a bit worse to me. And also, this is the sort of stage in the race where you'd think that if it was just an overfilled oil tank, it should have blown out the excess by now, and that smoke should really have stopped. So we're on lap 13 now, and really, I think there is a problem with Prost's car, and judging by the amount of smoke, it may last for quite a while yet, but I can't really see it lasting the race. That's much more smoke than we saw when Berger's car packed smoke for a whole race last year.
And meantime, up front, ahead of this lot, Alesi is continuing to pull away. He is over 9 seconds now ahead of Ayrton Senna. Berger rejoining now, and he's got the third, fourth, fifth and sixth right up behind him. Berger, is he going to let them through? He's got to come up to race speed. And meantime, Andrea de Cesaris goes through third, Piquet fourth, both inside Gerhard Berger. Fifth is Boutsen. Sixth is Alain Prost. They exit the corner, and Prost is taking Boutsen, and that's because Gerhard Berger is in Boutsen's way, and Boutsen isn't at all pleased. A big fist-waving session there.
Yes, and quite rightly, really, because Berger, a driver of his experience, should have seen the train behind that was bearing down on him as he left the pits, and moved over for the whole train, because he cost Boutsen the place, albeit a place that I think Boutsen was inevitably going to lose fairly soon. But then I think he should have left Boutsen the privilege of doing it all on his own, rather than helping him like that and making it easy for Prost.
Take a good look at Jean Alesi. Well, you can't, because now we're looking again at the battle between Andrea de Cesaris in third position, being chased by Nelson Piquet fourth, being caught by Alain Prost fifth, who's got ahead of Thierry Boutsen in the sliding Williams. Now, here is the replay coming up.
De Cesaris taking the inside line for the corner, and a big battle of chicken there, as he went, and then Piquet finally gets through. So up front now, as the race has settled, and amazingly, Jean Alesi, now you see the oil, the problem of the oil going over the camera lens of Bootson's car. Now you have to remember that is exactly what's happening over his visor as well as the camera lens, and that's the sort of view he's getting, and he'll be having to wipe his visor 2 or 3 times a lap at the moment with that amount of oil coming out of the car ahead. Up front though, Alesi is holding his lead. Senna's now holding the gap, and if anything starting to press, but he's not making much impression.
Prost has moved up a place. You just saw him go ahead of Andrea de Cesaris up into 4th place. So Gerhard Berger is well out now with Alesi in the lead. Senna in 2nd position. Nelson Piquet in 3rd position. Alain Prost driving the semi-automatic V12 Ferrari for the first time in anger in a race. And look at the gap between Alesi leading. Here is Senna, and it is some 5.2 seconds, so Senna is starting to charge. It was nearly double that, nearly 10 seconds. But Alesi, who takes orders from nobody, remember that he is only driving in his 9th Grand Prix. When he appeared in France last year, he was a sensational 4th. Now, there is Martini with Modena behind him, Prost, and they are starting to lap people already. And Alain Prost is in real trouble. He's losing places. Alain Prost, it looks as though James's prophecy that oil smoke from the back was going to be terminal is coming true. Alain Prost is slipping back. Nigel Mansell is well down the field at the present moment. He's in only 12th position, having started 17th.
Yes, and unfortunately, Ferrari's start to the season, Mansell, of course, accepted. There goes Prost into the pits, and I should think it'll be by end of the day's work with engine trouble of that nature. But Ferrari, who've done an enormous amount of testing during the winter, very successfully, they've won the testing battle, then proceed to tweak up their cars more in traditional Ferrari fashion and arrive at the first race in total disarray because they couldn't get the cars to run properly on Friday, hence Mansell's position right down towards the back of the grid, and Prost really was a struggle as well. They had problems with the engine, with the throttle not shutting properly.
Well, Mansell's coming up through the field by default, admittedly, but never mind, he's coming up. He is in 10th position as Olivier Griard, who drove for Ligier last year and drives for Asella in the Soul car this year, exits the pits on a new set of tyres, with Jean Alesi now leading. You can see Senna, he's closed the gap from 10 seconds to this visual gap. It's only a couple of seconds on the stopwatch, and that is Andrea de Cesaris out of the race. Well, he was in 5th position when he went out, but the Italian, who had done so well in practice to start from 3rd on the grid, has retired in the Dallara. His teammate Morbidelli incidentally failed to qualify, and I failed to mention earlier on that Martin Donnelly failed to get going in the race. He had trouble all through practice trying to start the Lamborghini engine, but now look at this. There is Nigel Mansell in the Ferrari. He's managing to keep it going.
But puffing a little bit of smoke, you might have noticed just then. Just a little bit, not nearly as bad as Prost, but nevertheless, Ferrari puffing billies this weekend, and really we've got their throttle problems, they've had some gearbox trouble, they've really arrived in some disarray for a team that has had so long to prepare and done so much testing. It really is a shame, and I hope they get their act together, because if they're going to beat McLaren's this year or give them a good run for their money, they've got to get their act together. As Senna now lines up behind Alesi, he's looking for a way past. He had a look at that before, he had another good look then. And I think that is where that is the main passing place on the circuit, and he saw then that if Alesi stays online, I think he'll have room.
Nevertheless, this is a tremendous tribute to Jean Alesi, taking the start at the lead, holding it for so long. He's under massive pressure now on lap 33 in this 72-lap race from ex-world champion Ayrton Senna, who has already won 20 Grand Prix in his distinguished career. And Alesi has got to keep very, very cool indeed. If he uses his head and drives tactically and sensibly, he can make it very difficult indeed for Senna to get past him. There are 14 corners on this course, and 12 of them are right angles, and Senna's going for it again.
Yeah, Senna still stalking him. Remember, this is very difficult to pass anywhere on a street circuit. This is not as bad as some. But Alesi, of course, has got a fair bit of experience at leading street circuit races last year in Formula 3000, namely at Po and in Birmingham. Birmingham being a fairly similar circuit, nature of circuit to this one. And that, of course, will be standing in very good stead now when he's being put under this intense pressure by Senna, because believe me, it's very difficult for somebody breathing down your neck, especially somebody with the name and reputation of Senna in a McLaren. And Senna has made it alongside, he's won the corner. And look at Alesi, that's cheeky, isn't it? Senna was a little bit sloppy, and Alesi's back in the lead. Fantastic stuff by Alesi, tremendous opportunist driving. Senna got through, but left a gap by trying to line up for the left-hand part of that double corner. Here we see it again. Now Senna, all quite conventional at the moment, just stays off the brakes long enough to get inside Alesi, therefore taking the corner. But now, instead of letting the car run wide to block Alesi, look, sloppy driving. He just didn't expect it, and Alesi, but at least he saw Alesi coming, and Alesi nipped back inside him. Tremendously cheeky and wonderful stuff.
Yeah, and very, very determined of Alesi, because in going where he did, he moved out to where the marbles are, as they're called. There's a lot of rough stuff on the inside, and Senna goes through again. Now he's not going to make this mistake again. Ayrton Senna has retaken the lead, and this time he prevented Alesi from getting through. Or did he? Because Alesi tried to go through on the inside, but Senna's got the inside line. What a magnificent race for Alesi, and for Tyrrell, and for Pirelli.
And real racer stuff, great, and he's still trying. So Alesi is going to fight Senna all the way. He's totally on, and that looks like one of the Brabhams. Is that Wojtek? Wojtek has hit the wall. He's in the middle of the straight now. I wonder what happened, because there's debris all over the place, but he's halfway down the straight, so it looks as if maybe something broke on the straight. The left rear wheel is all awry, but that could have been accident damage. Now Senna has got a bit of clear air. He's pulling away from Alesi, but that was a tremendous performance by Alesi, not in the least bit in awe of Senna's reputation or anything, and prepared to scrap all the way.
Yes, and now we look at the battle behind. Senna is leading by some 2 seconds now, with Alesi in second place, Thierry Boutsen in what looks like a pretty determined third position, in fourth place behind Thierry Boutsen. It's just, let's take a check, Nelson Piquet still in the Benetton. Then in fifth place, Stefano Modena, you can see him in the background, number 8, and in sixth position, up into sixth position, Nigel Mansell going through, because now Nigel has moved up. He is into fifth position, lap 47 of this 72-lap race. Still a long way to go, and hats off to Brabham and Modena too, because until Monday it was totally unclear about whether Brabham, who were having severe financial problems, were going to be able to take part in the season this year. They got out to practice on Friday just at the very last moment, so they've had hardly any time to prepare their cars. Wojtek out of the race, and now there is Jean Alesi, and the gap is now some 10 seconds. And what Alesi should do, in my opinion now, is settle for second place. He can hope that something will go wrong with Senna or the car, and I doubt very much that either of those things would happen. But Jean Alesi in the Ford-powered Tyrrell looks as though he's on his way to second place, and Nigel going well.
Yes, indeed. Yes, but at the same time, although Alesi, there's still that little puff of smoke, but Alesi should keep pressing. He shouldn't slow down. He should press on as hard as he can to keep Senna pushing his own car, because although Senna is just going away from him very slightly, and Alesi probably can't do anything about keeping up with him, what he can do is, rather than let Senna slow down, because Alesi, of course, has got an enormous lead over third place, so he doesn't have to worry about that. But he must keep the pressure on Senna to try and make Senna either make a mistake or possibly push his car and strain it mechanically and cause a breakdown that way. So, Mansell in 5th place, chasing Nelson Piquet. There's Piquet going through, then Mansell, just under 2 seconds behind him. So Mansell, a long, hard slog from near the back of the field at the start, has slowly chipped away, and of course on street circuits, overtaking is very difficult. Oops, and there's an engine blow, and that was a straight case of the engine blowing oil onto the rear tires. It looked like the old turbo days, didn't it? Looked like a turbocharger failure, and Mansell, heart-stopping moment, didn't hit anything. Here's the replay. You see the engine goes there, oil must have come bursting out of it. I think the rod through the block, and oil on the rear tires. Nothing the driver can do, complete passenger in that, and he's luckily enough stops without hitting anything.
Well, at the press conference earlier, and as Berger is out of the race, Ron Dennis said Ferrari have won the Winter Championship. Now we'll have to wait and see what happens in the summer. And in the first Grand Prix of 1919, both Ferraris are already out. There is the race leader. The order, Ayrton Senna leading, then the Tyrrell of Alesi, the Williams of Boutsen, the Benetton of Piquet, the Brabham of Monitor, and both Tyrrells are in the top 6 with Satoru Nakajima from Japan in his first race for Tyrrell in 6th place. And that is Eric Bernard in the Lola Lamborghini. He's been chasing his teammate Aguri Suzuki, the Japanese driver, and he chased just a bit too hard there. Thierry Boutsen out on his own. Well, last year the Williams Renaults were very consistent. Riccardo Patrese took 4 second places and finished 3rd in the World Championship. And it looks as though they're going to score by being consistent again. As Senna now very much out on his own, on his way now to his 21st Grand Prix victory. He's had a terrible winter in terms of politics and mental anguish, sitting in Brazil with all sorts of people sniping and firing at him. But this must be an enormous relief. And incidentally, as you look at the back of the McLaren, you can see that it has a completely new undertray with a scalloped effect, no less than 5 tunnels, which dramatically help the downforce on the car. So, Jean Alesi, driving very steadily, keeping away from the wall, staying on the racing line, being very careful where he passes people. He's some 17 seconds now behind, and actually Ayrton Senna has slowed down quite a lot. The gap is coming down. There are only 3 laps to go, as you can see. Senna leading, Alesi 2nd, Boutsen 3rd, Piquet in 4th position. The only excitement is here. The battle between Piquet there in the Benetton and Modena behind him in the Brabham. There he is in the blue and white car, battling for 4th and 5th places ahead of Satoru Nakajima. And it's tremendously demanding for the drivers, this circuit. You heard Jonathan Palmer earlier on talking about how much braking they have to do. Well, Wojtek, something happened to him in the Brabham. He went off. We saw Berger going off, so even the best of them can make mistakes here at Phoenix. The one sad thing about this American Grand Prix here is that once again it seems to have failed to turn on the American nation to Grand Prix racing, because although there are more people here than there were last year, there are still very, very few in comparison with most other World Championship events in Formula 1. Ayrton Senna then just pacing himself home in the V10 Honda-powered McLaren, brand new car. The MP4/B goes into the 2nd lap from the end. He's got this lap to go, and then the next one. And Senna will be more than happy about this, I am sure, because he quite remorselessly, once he had got the balance of his car right, wore down the gap between himself and Jean Alesi, took the lead and has pulled away, pacing himself all the time. He knows, of course, from pit signals and from the radio communication he has with Ron Dennis and the rest of the McLaren team, exactly what he's up to. That's Bernd Schneider behind him in the Arrows, finishing his first Grand Prix. Bernd, incidentally, is so big that he had a great deal of trouble in getting into the car, and they had to modify all the pedal layout to enable him to fit. But he's going to be a very happy man too. There's 14 people left in the race out of the 26 who started, and we're coming up to start the last 2.36 mile lap, a victory lap for Ayrton Senna, making it, or it will make it, assuming he finishes this last lap, in his 96th Grand Prix. It will be his 21st win, and you can see how much he's slowed up by the fact that he's let Schneider come right up to him, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if he doesn't let him through.
Yes, well, there's no great hurry for Senna now. Well, this is the win that he's had to work for, and what a surprise that it should be Jean Alesi that made him work. As I said before, not so much on Alesi's talent, but of course the outgunned Tyrrell, with it, well, at least outgunned in the engine department. Now he's letting Schneider unlap himself as he goes through, because he doesn't want to be rushed. He's not in a rush, so he's got plenty in hand over Alesi, and he just wants to get it round comfortably to the finish. But great drive by Jean Alesi, showing tremendous spirit in the middle of the race, totally unoverawed by Senna, diced with him and fought back, as Senna had to pass him twice to get through, and that really was tremendous racing by Alesi. The main teams, of course, were in a certain amount of disarray. Even the great McLaren team were in some disarray in qualifying, hence Senna's position for him only on the third row of the grid. But Berger got pole on his first outing, and Ferrari were in disarray, and really not a pointer to their form. So in the end, a fairly straightforward win, it looks like, for Senna, as he just comes around to complete the lap. And wonderful drive by Alesi, but a pretty boring second half of the race. It all got pretty processional towards the end.
Yes, almost up to the last corner now comes Ayrton Senna. Got to go into the long, sweeping pits left-hander, and that he does now. This is one of the few right-angled corners on the whole circuit. And Senna is going to be enormously happy, and he's got every right to be. On the other hand, Ferrari and Cesare Fiorio, the Ferrari team manager, as Ayrton Senna crosses the line for McLaren himself and Brazil to win the Phoenix Grand Prix from Jean Alesi, who closes right up to him. So the order is Senna the winner, Alesi in second place, Boutsen in the Williams third, Piquet fourth, Modena fifth, Satoru Nakajima there is in sixth place as Piquet and Modena go through to finish the race. So there it is, Senna, Alesi, Boutsen, Piquet, Modena, Nakajima, and Ferrari have certainly got a great deal to do with neither Prost nor Mansell finishing here in Phoenix. Victoriously, Ayrton Senna drives the McLaren, new aerodynamics, but still right at the top. Victory in Phoenix for Ayrton Senna and McLaren, and in 2 weeks' time, the Brazilian Grand Prix at Interlagos, and needless to say, Grand Prix will be there. Join us.